You stole my home while pretending to take care of me. That's what I told her right before the FBI cuffed her in front of the Christmas table she once helped decorate. No, that's not where this story begins. It starts one humid July morning, sunlight spilling across my Oregon porch, when I opened a letter that didn't belong. Pinnacle Home Equity Loan Balance, $178, $432. The paper trembled over my silver cane, the same one she used to fetch for me with that perfect smile. That was the moment I stopped shaking from pain and started shaking from rage. She thought I was too weak to fight back. She was right about the surgery, not the strength. The morning after that letter, I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee growing cold, staring at the numbers until they blurred. Ethan was rinsing dishes, humming off-key like he always did when he thought life was fine. The window above the sink framed our backyard lavender rose I planted 15 years ago now, bending in the breeze. For a second, it looked peaceful, safe. "Babe, you good?" he asked. I slid the letter across the table. "You ever heard of Pinnacle Home Equity?" He frowned, drying his hands. "No. Why?" "They say I owe them $178,000. He laughed a quick, nervous sound. "That has to be a mistake. You paid off this place years ago." "I know." My voice cracked a little. "That's the problem." The quiet stretched. Outside, a lawnmower started somewhere down the block. The world kept moving indifferent. The house we were sitting in, this 2-story with creaky floors and hand-painted walls, was more than wood and nails. It was the one thing in my life I'd built without compromise. I bought it with my late husband after 20 years of working fraud cases, chasing down con artists and liars who thought they were clever. I'd seen every kind of deception until it came for me wearing a smile I'd trusted. 3 weeks earlier, I'd been lying on this very couch after hip surgery, groggy from pain meds, my walker parked by the armrest. Danielle had been in and out of rooms, handling errands, cooking soup, sorting through bills. She'd say things like, "Rest, Maggie. You've carried enough weight in your life." I believed her. I let her near every drawer, every folder. I even gave her the password to my online banking so she could pay utilities while I recovered. That thought made my chest tighten. Back then, I didn't see the danger in kindness. I picked up the letter again, tracing the embossed logo with my thumb. My gut, the same one that had solved hundreds of fraud cases, buzzed like a warning siren. "I'm going to call them," I said quietly, "just to see what this is about." Ethan looked relieved. "Good. It's probably a clerical error." He still believed in mistakes. I believed in motives. When I reached the customer service rep, the script flipped fast. "Yes, Mrs. Lawson, we do have your reverse mortgage on file," the man said. My hand went numb around the phone. "My what approved on July 15th. Funds deposited to account ending in 7734. The room spun. That was the last 4 digits of Danielle's account. I'd written her a check for groceries once. "Can you send me all documents tied to this loan?" I asked, forcing my voice steady. "Yes, ma'am. We'll email them today." I hung up. Ethan watched my face, the color draining from his. What did they say? I met his eyes. They said I took out a loan the week I couldn't even walk. Outside, the lavender bent harder in the wind as if something invisible had shifted. The documents arrived that night, 6 PDF files each, colder than the last. The signature on the final page made my stomach twist. It was mine. Almost. The loops were just slightly off the pressure, uneven, like someone had practiced until it looked convincing enough for a stranger's eyes. But not mine. Ethan hovered behind me. "You think this is identity theft?" "Not identity theft," I said softly. "It's personal." I zoomed in on the digital stamp notarized July 15th, 3 p.m. The same week I was still sleeping in the recliner counting pain pills. Danielle had been the only one driving my car, answering my phone, handling my mail. Every piece of access handed to her, freely with gratitude. I pulled open the file cabinet in my home office. Inside, old bank statements, a copy of my Social Security card, my signature on a dozen legal forms. She hadn't needed to steal them. I'd practically placed them in her hands. The realization sat in my throat like acid. Ethan rubbed his temples. Maggie, come on. What, she wouldn't, she would, I cut in sharper than I meant. You saw her post that new Lexus last month, the one she claimed she'd saved for. He hesitated, eyes flickering with something between denial and fear. She said it was a deal. Used. Then let's find out. I opened Facebook, scrolled through her photos. There she was standing beside a white Lexus SUV sun flashing off chrome. Another post, 2 weeks later, drinks in Bali, captioned, "New beginnings." She'd tagged her kids, both smiling with brand new iPhones in hand. How could she afford this? I whispered. Ethan didn't answer. He didn't have to. The next morning, I drove myself, pain and all, to the police department. They pointed me toward a financial crimes division. "You'll need an attorney," the officer said kindly. "Reverse mortgage fraud is serious, but it happens more than you'd think." I met Ava Morales that afternoon, black blazer, red nails, voice steady like a metronome. She flipped through my printouts with an unimpressed sigh. "Your sister-in-law forged a notarized affidavit. That's federal. You're sitting on a slam dunk case. She took care of me while she did it," I said. "Fed me soup, paid my bills." Ava looked up. "Then make sure she never feeds off you again." That night, Ethan sat silent at dinner, his fork untouched. "She's my sister," he whispered. "I know," I said. "That's what makes it unforgivable." Outside the porch, light flickered like the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for what came next. I didn't sleep that night. The house creaked like it knew. Every sound felt suspicious, the hum of the fridge, the whisper of the wind under the door. I sat at my desk in a flannel robe, sifting through 30 years of records, tax returns, insurance statements, title deeds. I needed to see with my own eyes where the lie began and how deep it went. By sunrise, I had color-coded folders spread across the floor, my cane propped beside me like a soldier's rifle. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about reclaiming something she thought I'd lost my clarity. Ava filed the first round of complaints within days. The county records confirmed the nightmare. The mortgage was legitimate on paper, the property temporarily under lien. I could have lost my house if I hadn't caught it in time. "We'll notify the FBI," Ava said. "They'll open a federal case. You've already done half the work." When Agent Dana Kim called, her voice was calm, but clipped, like she'd said these words before. "We'll verify the notary, trace the deposit trail, and issue a warrant once confirmed." "How long will that take?" I asked. "Long enough for you to keep pretending you don't know," she replied. "If she runs it, complicates everything." Pretending I didn't know, that was the hard part. 3 weeks passed. Danielle still called, still texted pictures of her garden and jokes about aging hips like we hadn't crossed into a war zone. I answered every message with the same steady politeness. "Recovering well," I'd write. "Thanks for checking." Ethan watched me from across the dinner table one night, uneasy. "You're being calm about all this." I looked up from my plate. Calm is how you win. But when Thanksgiving rolled around, the mask cracked. Danielle arrived in that same white Lexus, wearing a cashmere coat perfume so strong it filled the hallway. She hugged me like a proud nurse greeting her favorite patient. "You look so much better, Mags," she said, squeezing my shoulders. "You're glowing. Must be the lighting," I replied. She laughed, oblivious. Ethan's mother wanted a family photo. Danielle stood beside me, her diamond bracelet catching the flash. The irony nearly choked me. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in the kitchen. The scent of turkey and wine still lingered. I opened the file from the FBI digital evidence confirming her account received the full $180,000. My thumb hovered over the call log for Agent Kim. Tomorrow, I thought. Tomorrow, we stop pretending. The day came colder than any Christmas I can remember. The sky was a shade of white that made the air feel sharp, clean, almost sterile. Ethan woke first, clattering in the kitchen, trying to act like it was a normal morning. I could hear him humming along to the radio, forcing cheer into the silence. I sat at the edge of the bed, cane against my leg, watching the tree lights flicker in the hallway. I'd strung them up myself 2 nights earlier, one bulb out near the top. Somehow that felt fitting. The FBI had called the night before. Tomorrow, 3:15, Agent Kim said. We'll execute the warrant then. We'll need her in the house. She'll be here, I told her. She never misses a photo op. I spent the morning cooking. Maybe it was instinct, maybe ritual. Turkey, mashed potatoes, roasted carrots. Every scent filled the air, cozy and deceptive. The table was set with the good china, the one Ethan's mother insisted we use for family. Ethan tried to keep his voice steady. You sure you're ready for this? I've been ready since July. He nodded, but his eyes gave him away. Guilt, shame, a grief that had nowhere to go. By 2 o'clock, the driveway was lined with cars. Laughter spilled through the front door as coats were hung and gifts stacked under the tree. Danielle arrived last, fashionably late, of course. The white Lexus gleamed at the curb. She stepped out wearing a dark green dress and heels that didn't belong anywhere near a family gathering. Her perfume hit first, sweet and loud. Merry Christmas, she sang, sweeping into the room like she owned it. She hugged her brother, then turned to me, hands warm and confident. Maggie, you look incredible. I'm so glad you're back on your feet. I smiled, calm, collected. Couldn't have done it without you. She winked, missing the edge in my voice. You always say that. The living room buzzed with conversation, the kind that sounds cheerful but carries tension underneath like a violin string tuned too tight. I caught Ethan's eye across the room. He looked like he might be sick. His mother chatted with Danielle in the kitchen, completely unaware. At exactly 3:15, the doorbell rang. Ethan froze. The laughter died mid-sentence. I set down the carving knife, wiped my hands on a towel, and walked to the door. The cold air rushed in as I opened it. Agent Kim stood there, black coat badge expression neutral. 2 uniformed officers flanked her. Margaret Lawson, she asked formally. I nodded. We're here for Danielle Lawson. Gasps. Chairs scraped. Danielle turned, smiling in confusion. What is this, a joke? Agent Kim stepped inside, reading from a document. Danielle Lawson, you're under arrest for mortgage fraud, wire fraud, and identity theft. The room tilted. Danielle's face drained of color. Maggie, tell them there's been a mistake. I met her eyes calm as the first day of winter. There's no mistake. You forged my signature. You stole $180,000 against my home. Her voice pitched, high, frantic. No, I know, that wasn't. I was going to pay you back. You bought a Lexus. You went to Bali. You gave your kids new phones. That's not paying me back. Ethan's mother clutched her pearls, whispering, Dear God. Danielle turned to her brother. Ethan, tell her. Tell them I'd never. Ethan's voice broke. Don't, Danielle. I saw the documents. It's your account. The officers stepped forward. Danielle stumbled back, hands shaking. Please no, you don't understand. I needed help. She has everything. You had me, I said quietly. That used to mean something. They cuffed her in front of the tree. The metal clicked like punctuation. The whole house fell silent except for the faint sound of a child's toy still playing Jingle Bells in another room. As they led her outside, snow started to fall, thin flakes, drifting through the air, melting on the porch light. She turned one last time, mascara-streaked voice cracking. We're family Maggie. I held her gaze. Not anymore. The door closed. For a long minute, no one moved. The turkey on the table steamed untouched. Ethan's mother whispered, You let her come here. Knowing, I nodded. The agents needed her calm. Besides, she earned her seat. Ethan stared down at his hands. You could have told me. And what would you have done? Warned her, tried to fix it quietly. He didn't answer. Dinner that night was nearly silent. The good china gleamed under warm light, but everything tasted hollow. After the guests left, Ethan and I sat by the fire. He spoke first. She's my sister. I can't just stop caring. You don't have to stop caring, I said. You just have to stop protecting her. He nodded slowly, tears glinting in his eyes. For the first time in months, I reached for his hand. We did what was right, I whispered. He squeezed back, voice breaking. I know, I just wish right didn't hurt this much. The trial took 8 months. The evidence was airtight forged affidavits, wire transfers, the notary's testimony describing a woman with a scar above her brow, Danielle's scar. When the verdict came, I sat in the courtroom, cane in hand, watching the woman who once made me soup stand to hear her sentence. 7 years in federal prison, the judge said. Restitution in full. Danielle didn't look at me. Maybe she couldn't. When it was my turn to speak, I stood leaving my note cards untouched. Your Honor, I said, I spent 30 years chasing fraudsters. None of them hurt me like this one did, because this one knew what kindness looked like and used it as cover. My voice trembled, but I didn't stop. She fed me when I couldn't walk. She tucked in the blankets while stealing my name. This isn't just about money, it's about trust. And she broke it in a way no prison can repair. The judge nodded, expression unreadable. Thank you, Mrs. Lawson. When the gavel struck, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for half a year. Outside the courthouse, Ethan stood beside me, his face pale in the September light. It's done, he murmured. Not yet, I said, but it's starting to feel like peace. He slipped his hand into mine. No words, no apologies. Just quiet understanding between two people who'd survived a family war. Weeks later, a letter arrived handwritten, postmarked from a correctional facility. Danielle's handwriting was still neat, still practiced. 3 pages of regret explanations and requests for forgiveness. I read it once. Then I picked up my pen and wrote back one line, "You'll finish your sentence in 2031. That's when forgiveness becomes optional. I sealed the envelope, pressed it flat, and set it aside. Outside, the lavender had started to bloom again. The house was still mine scars and all, and for the first time in a long while, I felt steady on my feet. Fall came back around softer this time. The air carried that mix of pine and rain that always made Oregon smell like starting over. I'd repainted the porch railings myself, slow work, steady work. Every brushstroke felt like reclaiming a piece of what she'd tried to take. Ethan and I didn't talk much about the trial anymore. Some wounds don't need words. They just need quiet to close. But every now and then I'd catch him standing at the window looking toward the mailbox, and I knew he was wondering if she'd write again. She hadn't. Neither had I. The FBI closed the case officially in October. Agent Kim called to tell me it was one of the cleanest investigations she'd ever handled. I almost laughed. Clean. Nothing about it felt clean. It felt necessary. Ava stopped by with coffee one morning. You ever regret going through with it? She asked. I thought about that, about the humiliation, the fear, the cold December day she was led away in cuffs. Then I shook my head. No, some things need to burn so you can see what's worth rebuilding. By Thanksgiving, the house was warm again. The lavender out front had regrown stubborn as ever. I set the table with the same china, poured 2 glasses of wine, and lit a candle. Ethan raised his glass quietly. To peace, he said. I met his eyes and smiled. To truth. And to never mistaking silence for weakness again. They say family means forgiveness. Maybe that's true for some people. But forgiveness without accountability isn't peace, it's permission. I learned that the hard way. When someone steals from you, you can lose more than money. You can lose your sense of safety, your belief in love, but you can take it back. Piece by piece, truth by truth. If you've ever stood up for yourself when it cost you everything, tell me your story in the comments and hit subscribe. You're not alone.